Hank, let's talk about your daddy. Tell me how your mama loved that man.
Well, just break out a bottle, hoss. I'll tell you about the drifting cowboy band.
Hey guys, JC Smith here. Today we're back on the 2003 F550. I've got the heads back from the machine shop. They replaced valve guides, valve seats, replaced a couple valves, and real lightly just kiss the surface of the head just to make sure it's perfectly flat. Let's see if I can show you. Maybe you might be able to see the valve seats. See the seats in there they've replaced? They replaced every single valve seat, and I think they replaced all the exhaust guides. Everything else was okay. See how the reflection is in the heads? They just real lightly kiss that just to make sure it's perfectly flat, and it was. Now what I'm going to do is what I like to call dress the heads, which is get it prepped and ready to go on the truck. First I start with that coolant temperature sensor. Next, what I want to do is there is a tube right here in the coolant port. It's a crossover. This thing likes to come out, so you got to be careful you don't lose that thing. It goes in just like that. What I'm going to do is, after I've cleaned this surface, make sure it's ready to go, I'll put a little piece of tape over this. That way I have to make sure that I don't lose it when I go to put it in. And here's what I don't like. They paint this, but I don't know if this will show up, but there's still a little bit of gasket material right there, right around these, and they've already painted it. So I always go back over it and make sure that there's nothing like this anywhere, whether it's here or I'll show you the exhaust without breaking that sensor. Yeah, there was a spot I thought I saw some aluminum. Maybe just a little bit right here yet. So we're going to go ahead and clean all these up. Make sure it's a perfectly flat and clean surface to seal to. And after that, we're going to put, we're going to do some of the inserts for the plugs, the steel inserts, and we're going to thread lock them in so that we don't have any problems with any spark plugs blowing out. So that'll be next. Okay, so I got it all cleaned up. It doesn't look as good as it did when it's painted, but I don't care about that. What I really care about is a good, clean sealing surface that's not going to leak. Something else I noticed, they must have dropped the head there because there's a little nick. There's just slightly raised right there, so I'm going to take a file and clean that off. Now when I'm cleaning aluminum heads, I use a die grinder, and this is a 3M roll-lock plastic disc. Trying to get it off one-handed. They call it a bristle disc is what they call it. Anyways, I use these because they don't remove. They're they're a lot more forgiving on aluminum, and they're not going to remove metal. I mean, they will if you push hard enough, but if you're using it lightly like you're supposed to, it'll do a very nice job. Alright, so I got all my new exhaust studs in. Before I put these in, I always take my brake parts cleaner and I put the little tube on it. I shove that tube all the way in the back and blow all the crap out and take a blow gun and blow them dry and then put them in. Because it always seems like the ones that were broken will either get combustion, like exhaust gas, back in here, or I don't know, crud for whatever reason. And they're always harder. And it was this one, and this one that were broken. And as soon as I went to go put them in, even though I'd hose them out, I had to do it a couple more times, get them clean. But they're ready to go. Let's get the exhaust gaskets on the manifold. Alright, this is the 2-valve engine that is notorious for blowing spark plugs out because it loses the threads. There's not a lot of threads there to begin with. I run my spark plug down in here and I've inspected these threads on all these, and these are good except for this one. Now, I've got that one bottomed out, and I want to take an opportunity to show you what the problem is. Okay, so there's tight. I'm going to back it off half a turn. I don't know if you can see that. That's a half a turn. There you go. It's just about ready to blow out past. So there's, let's go back here. There's tight, there's half, there's one turn, so that'd be one thread. It's another half, there's two threads. I mean, it's all but ready to blow out of there. Another half, full turn, another half. That's it. 2.5 threads. That's what's holding that. So we're going to put a thread insert in here. We're going to ream this out to a larger size. I'm going to put a steel insert in that one. Now, the plugs in this weren't very old, and it didn't have any problem firing, with the exception of the 2 cylinders that had low compression due to the valve stem seal, or the valves not sealing. So I'm not replacing the spark plugs, but I will never seize them. But I'll show you how we do this. We'll do that next. Alright, so this is the kit I'm going to use. It's a ATD Ford cylinder repair kit. This is ATD 5400. This is just for the 2 valves, meaning 5.4, 6.8, 2 valves. But this is the reamer. First thing we'll do is we'll ream that out. We're going to come in through the spark plug hole this way. There's a guide. We'll ream it out. Going to rethread it with this kit, and then after it's rethreaded, we'll put some high temperature Loctite on these threads, thread this onto the spark plug, and thread it down in there and let that set up so that it won't come back out. First step, set that reamer down in there. Next is, or the guide, this is a reamer for the guide, I should say. Set it in there. See how these flats are? It's meant to hit up against there and hold it straight. Take this reamer. Just going to put some WD-40 on it just so it cuts easier. Slide it down in there. Take it. It's not all the way through yet, but I'm going to take this out. I'm going to hose off the chips, get a little more WD-40 in there. Okay, that's through. See how I hit the roll pin here? Okay, back this out. See some of the chips in here. So we're basically just drilling that hole, but instead of drilling with a point, we're just reaming it out. Clean this off. Set it off to the side. Next step is to take the threaded rod, pull the guide back out, and you have to put make sure there's no chips in here. You have to put the tap this way, because this is too large to come in this way. Again, WD-40 on my tap. Guide that down in. I like to get it started by hand. A couple times I'll then pull it out, clean the chips off. Even though the cylinder head's off, I just like to take it out of there and get the chunks out, because the more chunks we get out of here, the cleaner the threads we're going to make. Half a turn forward, 3/4 turn back, another half a turn, 3/4 a turn. feel like it's getting tight, I'll just go ahead and back it all the way out. Pull it out, clean the chips off again. This is a pretty quick process, but I'll take as long as it needs to make it as nice as it can be. As good a job as we can get. We must be getting close. I think we're through now. Now you're supposed to go down here to this groove in the tap. If you go too far, what'll happen is you go in like this, you're gonna get to where this tap will just fall into the cylinder. See this? Now for me it's not a big deal because I got the head off, but if you're doing it on the truck and that fell in, that could be a big deal. If you're doing on the truck, there's a whole procedure to make sure that both valves are closed before you do this, and the piston is down at least 4 inches. But being as though this is off the truck, off the engine, I'm just going to pull it out this way. Now, I'll show you what nice clean threads that makes. Doing that half turn with some cutting oil, and then also you can see how much aluminum chips are in the cylinder that you can't see. So we'll hose this out real good, because when we put the insert in, we're going to put Loctite on it, and I need that Loctite to adhere to the aluminum, and as long as there's WD-40 or any type of lubricant in there, cutting oil, it's not going to. So next thing we'll do is get that all cleaned up. There's the pile of shavings from the reaming and the threading. So if you think it's not a lot of aluminum you're taking out, you're wrong. I mean, it's a good bit. Look at how thick that shoulder is. Look how thin this shoulder is now. Okay, so I got the spark plug, got never sees on it, really good. The next step is to take the insert, thread it on the spark plug all the way down till it seats. Right like that. After that, this is Loctite 266 high temp. We're going to put it on here, and we're going to make sure the whole entire threads are covered all the way around, because we don't want this coming out. I've already cleaned this off with brake parts cleaner, and that way we'll make sure you got a good adhesion. So that's next. Then we'll screw it into the cylinder head, and I'm going to torque it to 25 foot-pounds and let it sit over. Getting ready to set the passenger side head. This is the rear. There's not enough room between the head and the heater box in the cab to get these head bolts in later. So I just take a rubber band, I set them at the depth so they're above the head gasket so they won't fall. And then I'll set it down in. Once I'm in place, I can take the rubber bands off. Okay, so it was 4 of them. It's this one, this one, this one, this one. As you can see, there's not enough room. They're too long. They'll hit the heater box. So I use a rubber band to hold them up. Then once we're in place, just take the rubber band off. Easier said than done, apparently. Anyways, and there you go. Okay, so you'll see the head, maybe, of the bolts, and how I have them all with a paint marker at 12 o'clock. Alright, the next torque sequence, you torque it to so many foot-pounds, and then on this one I'm going 30 degrees, or 90 degrees. I'm going to go 90 degrees, starting in the center, working my way out, which will put these at 3 o'clock, and then I'm going to, after I've completed that, I'm going to go back around, do it again, so that another 90 degrees, so that all of these marks get a light in there, are pointing down at 6 o'clock. And I do this so if I skip one, if I happen to miss one, get out of sequence, I can tell that one isn't correct. So it's easier for me to do. You can also use a torque angle, but I would do this with a torque wrench also, just so I could keep track of which ones I did already. Because there's, you know, what, 20 head bolts here? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, yeah, 20 total on both heads. So let's get to work. Okay, we got the first set at 90 degrees. I like to do one side, then the other side, then come back and do this one again. Same thing when I first start. Like I torque this to 30 foot-pounds all the way across, start in the middle, work my way out. Then I come over here, do the same thing. Then I come back over here and do my first 90 degrees, first 90 degrees, and then second 90 degrees, second 90 degrees. Okay, final torque sequence. They're all down at 6 o'clock on both sides. So now we're ready to lay in the lash adjusters, cam followers, put the cam on, and start with the timing. So we're going to put all the Valvetrain back in. We've had these soaking in oil. These are called lash adjusters. It's a good time to inspect them, as I did before we put these in, and make sure that the tops are all in. There's no weird wear on the tips of them, and the oil hole should be open. Once we know it's okay, and also I guess I should say that when I took this apart, I put these in line as they came out so they can go back where they were, so everything lines up. The cam follower goes back where it goes back on the same lash adjuster, the same valve, and the same place on the cam. Then we know that lash adjuster is good, we put it in. And you also need to inspect these cam followers, because they're prone, not so much on these ones but the newer ones, but they'll crack here and break, or the bearing right here will go out in this roller. These are all in good shape, but once you inspect them, then I take a little bit of lubricant assembly grease, put a little bit here, a little bit here. This rides on the lash adjuster, this rides on the valve, and I put it right down on, just like so. So when we start it, it's not dry. And I put a little bit of assembly lube on the roller itself, so when we set the cam in there, when it starts to turn, it's not dry. I've got all this done. You can see both sides are finished. They're all ready to go. Now we're going to lay the cam bearings down in here, which is kind of funny because in the 05 and up 5.4s and V10s, they don't have bearings in here. They're just, the cam lays in, you know, on the bare aluminum casting. But these older ones have cam bearings in it. They're halves. So that'll be next. We're going to lay all those cam bearings in. We'll set the cams in, and we'll do our timing. And it's very important that you pay attention to the oiling hole. You can see where that oiling hole is there. You can see on the back one, it's to the front. It's in a different location, so you got to make sure you get these in the right way so you can see the oil hole lines up. If you get them on wrong, you're not going to oil this because it'll block the hole off. That journal won't get any oil and it'll destroy the bearing. Get the thin coat of never sees on the threads. I'm not replacing these spark plugs because they are not that old. And they look very good, so there's no need to replace them. It didn't have a miss because of spark plugs. It had a miss because of the valve stem seal, or the valve seats or valves wouldn't seal. And the socket I'm using is a snap-on. It's like S9720KA. It's a 5/8 spark plug socket, but it's extra deep, so it makes it real nice and easy to get the spark plugs down in there, because you don't have to worry about banging around the sides or hitting the electrode on anything because you're holding it, you know, a straight socket. the rest of these in. Okay, cams are all in and torqued. Cam gear, and my bolt is torqued. That gets torqued to 30 foot-pounds plus 90 degrees. Same thing on this one. This side's all in. Spark plugs are in. Tensioners, guides, and don't forget the trigger wheel. I always put that on just as soon as I'm finished with the timing gears, so don't forget it. Okay, so that's probably it for this one. Next video will be intake, valve covers, timing cover, exhaust, accessories, and hopefully we'll be ready to start it and see how it does. So look for that. That'll be the next one. If you guys like what we're doing, give us that thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Hit ring that little bell, and it'll send you notifications when the next video comes up. And leave your comments down below, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.
Well, just break out a bottle, hoss. I'll tell you about the drifting cowboy band.
We won't talk about the habits,
Just the music and the man.